The Bible says God listens to the heart. Molweni zithandwa, welcome to my channel. First things first, let us thank God for bringing us through another week. If you are new to the channel, welcome. Igama lami nguBabalwa. You can call me Babes, you can call me Babs, you definitely can call me Ubabsi. Please do join us and become part of this virtual family. I would love to have you here. And to our married 10, thank you guys so much for coming back to another video. I appreciate your loyalty and I appreciate you. So today I'm going to be talking about losing my mother. I'm sure you guys can see I'm not my bubbly self because this is a tough topic, but I want to share it. I want to talk about it. For me, I feel that it is also going to heal me in a way, because the more you talk about things, the more you heal from them. I'm not going to be long, and if I do get emotional, I will stop and then I will try and record. I will try and continue recording. Okay, so my mom for most of the time, she was staying in London. She left when I was in high school, and then my brothers followed after 5 years, and 2 years my father also was working there, and she came back. I think she was gone for 11 years, 10 to 11 years, and then she left when I was in primary, or yes, I think I was in primary. So when she came back, now obviously by the time that she came back, I was no longer staying like at home. I was now in tertiary, and life had moved on. So for most of my life, I could say that my mother, I wasn't living with my mother. I don't want to say she wasn't around. I was not living with my mother. And I must say, she tried, Shem Umzali, she tried by all means to give us the best life that we could possibly have. Hence she went to London, because she wanted to give us everything that we could possibly receive. So she came back. I don't quite remember the year that she came back. In 2018, she was diagnosed with breast cancer. I remember I went with her to get her results, and then when we got there, she received her results, and then they told her that she tested positive for breast cancer. And I remember we were crying, and I'm like to her, don't you want to get a second opinion? And she was like, no, she didn't want to. My mom was a nurse, so she was like, no, she can feel that there's a lump in her breast, so there's no need for a second opinion. I guess what I was saying to her is that maybe because now they were going to remove her breast, so I was like, I thought that maybe we can maybe work around the removal of her breast. Okay, her breast got removed, and then procedure went well. She came back, and then the following year she started experiencing some problems with this part of her. I'm not sure if it was the muscles or what. So, and then they told her that as a result of that she had removed her breasts, now I'm not sure which muscle is connected to which muscle, but she started to limp, right? She started limping, and she would cry of a pain. Right? Then we went to a lady, Sister Handy, for Bowen therapy. Okay, and then it would help her. Ultimately, there was this one time I remember we were coming back from church, and then she just cried. My mother never used to cry easily. Me, on the other hand, I'm a crybaby. So my mom was never a person that used to cry easily. So this one time we don't even know what, we understand that she's got this thing in her leg that sometimes is painful, but she came back and she started crying, and we're like so shocked. Mama, why are you crying? You know, when you see Umzalo Wako crying and all of that. And then she's like, it's painful, yeah. Well, and then we got her meds, we gave her meds, and then asked we said it's okay, she must try and sleep and all of that, painkillers, we must try and sleep. Okay, she did that. She had the breast cancer removal, her breast removal in 2017. And then 2 years later, 2019 in March, she started having problems with when she eats, right, the food doesn't settle. And then like, okay, no, you need to go get this checked. Like, yeah, she's gonna go. Ultimately, she did go. And then Mama, she didn't tell us what the results were. Okay. And then later on, she tells me, Okuti, apparently she's got gastric cancer. Yeah, well. That's why the food won't settle in her stomach, because she will eat and it's like, no, her stomach just not settling. Yeah. She came back and she found out that she has gastric cancer, and then she said to me, I remember she said to me that I mustn't tell anyone about it as yet. Okay. I'm the only girl. I'm the oldest one. So and then we're like, okay. And then I prayed. I remember I prayed because I always heard cancer spreads, yeah, and we had thought, at least if it was breast cancer and then it was removed, then you know she was out of danger. At that time, she was supposed to go. They had scheduled an op for her, you know. That they were going to remove her stomach, and then I don't know what they were going to put inside her body that was going to bypass the fact that she will no longer be having a stomach, and then whatever. And then she was so scared, because now we went into lockdown. We were in level 5 of a lockdown, and she's like, no, she's not comfortable with going to the hospital. What if she dies there? And at that time, you couldn't go see your loved ones. So she's like, no, she's not going to go there. And then remember, we heard about this other lady that had a similar situation, and she had gotten cured apparently from this it's like medication, herbal thing, like some leaves that you put in water and then you must drink. Okay, we tried that, and then nothing helped. And then I remember my brother, he's like, he saw this thing online, and people saying Oti, it has cured them and all of that. I'm like, okay, cool, let's buy that. And at that time now, when we saw, or when my brother saw this medication that people were using that helped them, Umama, like, now she was starting to lose weight. And at that time I was working outside of town. Most of in construction, most, you know, that you'll get a site here, and then once the project is finished, you have to move over to another place. So my life has been like that. So at that time I was in Northern Cape, so I would come home month ends, and whenever I come back and I see Mama, uyaphela, you know, and she now was eating less and less and less, and now she started not eating other things. Like whenever, you know, you give her something and then she want to vomit, you know. So so whenever I come back, so I remember at that time it was in September, so I'm like, okay, cool. My brothers at that time weren't working, so we're like, whatever we can possibly do to save umama, yeah, well, so let's go for it. So we did that, and then umama, that didn't help. Yeah, but that didn't help. So I called the person. I'm like, yo, my mom, she's just throwing up, like every morning she's throwing up. Yeah, well, and then he's like, hey, he wishes that we had contacted him sooner, because at this, when I described what was happening, and the guy was like, he's not sure if the medication is going to help, because it seems like we are almost like late, you know, the cancer has spread. All the time that I would come back home and I'd leave with a heavy heart. Yeah, well, I remember this one time, I think I came back home October, and I could just see Umama that day. Umama, she's just getting worse. She's losing weight all the time. And my brothers and my family, they didn't see her the way I saw her, because remember, now I go and then come back after a month, but now they staying with her, and they don't see that she's gradually, because they don't see that she's losing weight. And now when I came back, I was like, yo, every time I come back, I was your mama. And I remember coming back. I remember going back to work that October 2020, and I went, first thing I offloaded my bags and I offloaded my bags and my groceries, and I went to the room and I knelt on my knees and I prayed and I prayed and I prayed. I prayed so hard, and the one thing that I said at the end of my prayer is, Lord, if umama, it's her time to rest, because remember, Mosne, we all ultimately going to die, we know that. And I prayed, I said to God, Lord, I want mama to be well. There are still some things that I want to do for her, you know. There's so much that I still want to do, you know. We haven't had that much time together, you know. And I said, but if you want her to rest, then let your will be done. At that time I was crying. I was crying, and then I said, should she rest, I ask that you prepare me. You prepare me for the pain. You prepare us for the pain as a family. That is the only thing that I said. And I woke and I stood up, and then I wiped my tears away, and then I went to sleep. Now I went back in December. You know, went back to December. My mom, she was just worse. And at that time now, she couldn't walk, you know. We had to now assist her in walking. And mama, she was such a lady, you know. She was passionate about her job. She loved what she used to do. She mama had even wanted to open a home, because she loved working with the elderly people. I had to start looking after her. And in just before, I think it was on the after Christmas, umama, her sugar level dropped, and then she was not responding. And then at that time I was in Hemingway's in town, and then my brother called me, my mom is not responding. And for me, I was like, okay, this is it, because I could see it coming. Yeah, the way Mama was so sick, I could see it coming. Okay, no, this is it, And I remember wandering around and I'm thinking, I don't want to go home, but I need to go home, but I don't want to go home because I'm like in my mind that I'm afraid to face the reality that Mama is gone, So we took her to hospital only to find out, okay, her levels sugar levels are low. Then they gave her a drip, and then they kept her overnight. And then I remember I couldn't sleep because I could see Uguti, no man, Mama, it's soon. And I remember Mama said, in as much as you see someone who know they're not gonna make it, you don't give up. You don't give up on them. She came back from hospital, and then we were like, okay, there's this thing that we heard it helps. And then she's like, please stop buying. Can you stop buying? Don't buy anything anymore, So Mama, when she was in hospital, I remember I received a call, and then I had a Truecaller on my then phone, and then it showed the details of the hospital, and I was like, because it's like I'm waiting because I can see Okuti, it's coming, Then they called me, Okuti, hello, and then she's like, oh Mama, most by now how her situation is and all of that. I'm like, yes. And then she's like, there's nothing that we can do for your mother and all that. I'm like, no, I understand. Can you please just bring her home? Bring her home, because we wanted to take care of her on these last days. So okay, fine. They discharged her, and then they told us she's not going to live long. And Natimos, we could see, and at the time we could see, the clock is ticking. Okay, fine. She came back, and we spent time with her, and we made sure we are present for her. Then I had to go back to work. And at that time, I didn't want to go back to work, but at the same time, I think what made me leave was because I didn't want to see Mama pass away in front of me. So I was like, no, I have to go. And she's like, when are you gonna come back? I'm like, no, I'm gonna come back month end. I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna make sure month end I'm gonna come. And at that time, I still had hope. She's still going to be around when I come back. Maybe God is going to give us another month or something. And at the same time, when I said goodbye to her when I was leaving for work, something also was like, maybe this is your last goodbye. And the way I rushed my goodbye, because when someone is sick, and every time I would enter in Mom's room, I had to gather so much strength so that I put on a smile, so that she doesn't see the hurt or the pain, seeing her like that in my face. So I had to gather the strength and walk in and smile and say good morning, because I don't want her to see me in a position. I think also for her, she didn't want to tell us exactly how she was feeling, and then it would hurt us, Anyway, I left, and then the following day I got a call. Remember, I left on the Sunday, and then I left on the 10th, and then the 11th of January, I got a call from my brother. It was in the evening, around about 6, and then he's like, Mom's not breathing. It's the same thing that happened to her. It's happening again. And I'm like, check her pulse. Do you feel anything? And at that time he was so confused. Obviously it felt like he was feeling something, at the same time he was not feeling something. To cut the story short, Mama was gone. And I was like, okay. I remember, I don't remember if I cried, because I was like, okay, so it has finally came. Okay, Mama, she's gone. we've seen it coming, ne? So okay, fine. Then I had to drive back another 6 hours back home. The following day I had to go home, and I was okay. And then I got home, and then I went to her bed, and I saw she's not there, and then tears came out of my eyes, but I wasn't crying, not that deep cry. Okay, fine. So we prepared for the funeral, and still at that time I didn't cry, and I was so I wished I want to cry. Even when we were at the cemetery, and you know, sometimes they'll say when you see the casket or the box being lowered, you're gonna cry. I didn't cry, and I wanted to cry so bad. I wanted to cry so bad. So during the preparation, people will call me, and talk about how loving my mother was. My mom was a people's person. She was a person of peace, and they will start crying on the phone, and I had to be the ones that would comfort them. I'm just painting a picture of how much my mother touched so many people. I had to go back to work, okay? So after the funeral, we prepared everything, and then I think a week later I went back to work. And I remember I told myself, I arrived around about 1 o'clock. I think it was a Sunday, and I went to because we streamed the funeral. So I went to YouTube and I watched everything, and it hit me, and I cried, and I cried, and I cried, and I cried so much. And then I was like, okay, this is exactly what I wanted. I wanted to cry and let everything out. So Umama, when she passed away, there were a lot of comments saying she should have gone for the operation that time. And I always responded and said, when it is your time, it is your time. There's nothing that you could do. She could have went and the operation could have been fine, but her date was the 11th of January. We also have dates. I have dates. I don't know when, but every person is going to ultimately die. So that is how I look at things. One thing that I can say, going home, they'll say in Xhosa, ikhaya ayilingena mama nje likhaya liyabanda, and I felt that because every time I went home is cold. Yes, it's home, but without umama, it just feels cold, it just feels cold. And every time now there are gatherings, like family gatherings, maybe there's umgidi or whatever, things are just not the same. Things are just not the same. And one thing that I am grateful for is that I was there for mama, because at some point I was like, I wish, but because there's nothing as painful as to see umzali wakho, your parents losing weight, crying, being sick, changing now from the person that mamako to be chubby and all of that. Now they are the skinny person. That is so painful, and then there's nothing that you can do. There is nothing that you can do. That is such a painful experience. And at one point I was like, I wish maybe mama could have just afmani COVID and then she passes on. But now I thought again, and I remember Rukoti, had it been like that, I wasn't going to be able to take care of her in her last days. I wasn't going to be able to show her so much love that I showed her during her last days. So in as much as it was a painful experience, but I'm just grateful that I was there for her, and I was just there to care for her, to support her, and to do everything that I did during the last days. And what I want to say is that I always find strength in Philippians 4 verse 13, that I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. It's not easy, but we are here today. We are able to talk about the loss of, we are able to talk about losing a mother. Maybe someone else out there can find comfort in this video knowing Angoti, life doesn't stop. Maybe it might be slow, but life does not stop. And even if sometimes you cry, because I remember there were times that I used to cry and I wouldn't be able to utter a word because I was so, the pain that was in my heart, I couldn't utter words. But the Bible says God listens to the heart. God listens to the heart, and God does not give us challenges that He knows that we cannot control. That is why when I made that prayer, God said, let your will be done, but prepare me. Prepare me. Prepare me. So I guess with everything, we just need God to prepare us and God to help us, because the journey is not easy and we still are going to lose our loved ones. But the only thing that we can ask is that for God to prepare us, for God to help us to be able to walk through the painful journey that we encounter at that time. So if someone has lost their mother, or someone has lost their parent or their child or whatever, just remember to just pray and ask God to give us strength, because without Him, where can we go? Without Him, who can help us? God heals the broken hearts. That's what the Bible says. So let Him be our healer, and I hope that someone is comforted by this video. May God give us strength. May God help us through everything that we are going through. And hopefully one day, as Revelations will say, that God will wipe away our tears. There will be no more crying. There will be no more pain, for the former things would have passed. So we wait. So we await for that glorious morning where there will be no more crying, there will be no more pain, and we will have answers to our questions. Thank you guys so much for watching. Up until next time, God bless.